Hi students, welcome to Medical 360. Yesterday, the scores or the percentile at which the third round counselling for NEET PG were announced. And it's still provisional, by the way, as we speak, but it looks like more or less that's the kind of score that you will have. So what we wanted to understand exactly is at what percentile, at what score a student can get into or buy a seat. Remember, last week these people reduced the minimum standards also. For the general category, it was 7th percentile, and for the other categories, it was 0 percentile, is what they said, which essentially means that you appear for an examination, you can still pass through and get one of those empty seats and become your doctor and treat you also. So when we started looking at some data, we actually had a few things that we wanted to understand. What is the kind of merit or the quality of the student who is going to be your doctor? And how much have you fallen, and what is the kind of correlation that you have for the fees that is being charged, because of which the reduction in standards also happens. Last week at Career 360, we also done a story about how 1,666 students till round 2, by the way, have converted to NRI, even though they actually have very, very low score or low marks, so that they can get a seat in one of the medical as MD. Now, what we're going to look at is much beyond that, because in NRI also, you must remember there is category 1 and category 2, priority 1 and priority 2. Priority 1 is genuinely an NRI, priority 2 is essentially sponsored NRI, which means that you pay the fee that an NRI pays, but you're actually an Indian sitting here. So you actually are letting your money talk, you're flexing your money power to become a doctor and treat you. So what essentially we're trying to do is, after the reduction in the standards that have happened for NEET PG, how did the entire demography in terms of the doctors that are going to be doctors in 3 years from now, what kind of quality of doctors can we expect? And that is what we're going to explore here. So we're talking of NEET PG 2025 round 3, the result analysis, right? Now you should know the category wise reservation. You actually have 10% for EWS, 15% for SC, 7.5% for ST, and OBC 27%. So this is the thing that you have at this point in time. And by the way, this 10% is extra numeric, right? Now, when we look at that data and we started looking at what is the highest round at which you actually could get into any of the medical hospitals, and we've done it for some of these things just so that you understand at each category we've done this right now, because I showed you the categories that you have here. Now, for general category, 1,82,260 was the rank that you could be, right, to be a part of, to be an MD in anatomy. That's for general category. For EWS, it became 2,11,308, which is 110 marks out of 720. For OBC, it was 2,05,000. So, this is much more competitive than EWS if you look at it. And by the way, across the board, we've noticed that OBC is much more competitive than EWS, which means EWS has got a lesser merit in a certain sense, right? And we also told you how many of these EWS are not EWS, mind you. They're actually rich brats sitting there earning a certificate or buying the certificate so that they can actually claim a reservation that is meant for genuinely poor students. We explained that in an earlier video also. Then we have for SC, one again MD anatomy, 2,26,000 marks. Now this person has got 55 marks out of 720. Now in the ST category, Government Medical College in Handwani, biochemistry is what they got, and here the student got -8 marks. It is -8 marks. So that's the kind of fall in the kind of quality that we have. These across the categories I have shown you. The more serious thing I will show you as we move along. Now look at this deemed universities round 2. Now this management quota in ACS Medical College and Hospital in Chennai for physiology, right? The closing rank was 2,30,087. Remember, the number of students who participated is about 2.35 lakh or something like that, right? Now, the actual marks that the student might have actually got is -12 marks. It's less than 0, it is -12 marks. And he's going to be an MD with physiology, right? In the NRI category, in orthopedics, 2,29,242. Now, these are marks that you have, 28 marks. Remember that. And this person, by the way, got -2%, 12 marks, and he's going to be a doctor. And the course fees, of course, I'm leaving it for a time being. When I move further down and start looking at what is the highest rank at which anyone could have got a seat, right? In Diva Patil, at 40 marks out of 720, which means we're dealing with about 5 to 6% marks, right? You could get a seat. The rank is 2,28,357. Now, what we did was we actually created an indicative score based on the rank because we actually could project it, right? Some of that might not be to the point correct, but broadly this is what you're dealing with. In another, and by the way, this student got MD/MS in anatomy. In Sri Lalitamba Medical College and Hospital in Chennai, Tamil Nadu, at 2,28,618 also, 37 marks, someone got a MD in biochemistry. Bharati Vidyapith, MD in microbiology, 2,28,000, 35 marks. KS Hegde Medical in Bengaluru, MD Physiology, 2,28,775, 35 marks. When you keep going down and start looking at it, in Symbiosis Medical College of Women in Pune, MD Biochemistry, 2,30,056 marks, MD in Biochemistry, minus 5 marks. The student got a seat. Minus 5 marks. In ACS Medical College and Hospital in Tamil Nadu, MD Physiology, 2,30,087, minus 12 marks. You could get a seat. So the fall in the standards is enormous. We're talking of students who otherwise should not pass any examination, who got negative marks also, but they are going to be your doctors, which means that it is far better that you could have actually gone there, sat there, left the paper empty and come back, and you would be a doctor. You just need to fill up your application number, sit there for 3 hours and come back, you will be a doctor. That is what the kind of fall in standards is at this point in time. So I don't even know, later maybe, once they do that, for the next 3 years also, you just sit there, go to the hospital, come back, mark your attendance, punch your attendance, and then come back and you'll become a doctor too. Because that's the kind of fall in standards that we are seeing at this point in time, in terms of the minimum standard that, Supreme Court was talking about, which is 50th percentile for general category and 40th percentile for the categories. But in this case, forget about 50th percentile, you brought it down so dramatically. What was general category 50th percentile was brought down to 7th percentile. And what was, 40th percentile for the categories has been brought down to 0 percentile. And that is the problem. And by the way, when you talk of 0 percentile, it's not 0 marks, it is minus marks is what we're talking of. That is the 0th percentile that we're dealing with. Now, further moving down, we also try to link it back to what kind of fees would the student have paid, because of which possibly the seats could not be filled in and the people with money bags could actually fill it in. And when we looked at that data, it gave you much more information. In Sri Siddhartha Institute of Medical Science and Research in Vegur, MD Dermatology, 2.1 crores is the course fees. And the student with 1,07,146 got it, the marks would be 292. Wales Medical College and Hospital, MD Dermatology, 2.1 crore. Lakshmi Narayana Institute of Medical Sciences, Puducherry, 2.1 crore. And look at the ranks that you're dealing with, 1,22,000, 1,32,000, 1,34,000. That's the kind of rank at which you're getting this whole thing. And possibly all this because, the fee is so high that students could not get into that, and people who could pay the money of 2.28 crores and all, because the seats were vacant, mind you. Whenever you look at the MBBS admissions, you must remember one thing. The fee is so high that it is reservation for the rich. If you can't pay 2.5-3 crore rupees, you can't do an MD. Now, the number of people in India who can actually pay that is not more than 3-4-5% of the top. The other 95%, even if they get a very good score better than this, cannot get there because they can't obviously pay that fees. So what happens, because someone who got a better score could not pay the fees, they don't seek admission, and people who could pay the fees will come in even though the merit is so low as compared to what the original student. So you actually have MD in radio diagnosis going at 1,25,000 rank, whereas it's the most in demand course, right? Because the fee is 2.25 crores, that's Sri Balaji Medical College and Hospital in Chennai. And this seems to be the pattern across the board. Across the board, many of these seats were not filled in. Remember, look at this, radio diagnosis, radio, it's all radio. One of the most in-demand courses. Why were those seats not filled in when they were so much in demand? Because the fee was so high that not everyone could afford that. So what happens? The students with good merit cannot pay the fee. So the students who actually have money but no merit can pay the fee and get in, which is what happened in this particular case, right? And the other thing that we noticed, and we're talking of only round 3, mind you, is this piece, right? You must remember last time, we've done a video where we talked of how in NRI category, we actually had 1,666 students who were general category students but moved to NRI category to claim a seat which is meant for the general category because they were willing to pay the NRI fees. See, NRI category is what? The fee is 2 times of what the general category fee is. So 1,666 students moved from general category to NRI category, and by the way, this nonsense happens only in the NEET examination. People move categories. I come in as EWS but end up paying 2 crore rupees fees. I come in with a category, NRI category, but move to general. I come in as general and move to NRI category. Everything happens here because you're looking at a seat. So your original fill detail of whether you're an NRI or OBC or an SC or a EWS doesn't matter. You can keep moving up as long as you have the ability to pay and pay the fees of 2, 2.5, 3 crores, 4 crores and all and move up there. So when 1,666 students actually moved to NRI category, they would have paid 2.5, 3 crores, 4 crores kind of a fees and claimed a seat which otherwise would have belonged to a general category student or an open category student. Now in this particular case, now these are all deemed universities we are talking of, first of all, remember. In deemed universities, you don't have any category reservation. So you actually have management category and you have NRI category, only 2 categories. But when we looked at data, about 2,885 seats were filled in this particular round, 2,885, of which only 1,855 were general category. About 101 students are EWS students, but ended up paying 1.5 2 crore rupees as fees to claim a seat in a deemed university, because the fee in a deemed university is about 50-60 lakhs rupees per annum. So you are essentially paying. And remember, till round 2 we already talked of 145 students. So in all, you actually have 246 students who are EWS students who ended up paying a couple of crores as fees when they don't have any income, no wealth, no land, no property, nothing. But they could pay these fees, which essentially means that the EWS category certificate that they got is a fraud on the nation. It's a fraud on the poor children of this nation. Then you actually have 815 students who are from OBC category who claim the deemed university seat through the management quota. About 108 from SC category and 6 from ST category. So that is the kind of thing. Genuinely, if you look at it, only 1,035 students were from different other categories who moved to general category and claimed a general category seat in deemed universities. That's because the fee is so high that a general category student with merit could not have paid that, and the other category students come and pay. And that includes people who claim that they are economically weaker, very poor, so to say, but could end up paying 2.5, 3 crores rupees as fees. The other thing that we noticed is NRI itself. You must know the NRI seats of priority 1, which is genuinely an NRI. Then you have NRI priority 2, which is people who are sponsored NRI, which means that I might be an Indian sitting in India, but as long as I pay the money that is meant for an NRI, I can be coming through the NRI quota. Because every college has an NRI quota also, right? So, of the total NRI seats that are there, 497 that were claimed in round 3 rather, only 114 were genuine NRIs, 383 of them were general category students who moved and became an NRI, paid the very high fees and claimed these seats. And of this 383, 284 were general category students, 3 were EWS, which means these people would have paid 3-4 crore rupees while being EWS. 82 were OBC, 12 were SC and 2 were ST. Very clearly, if you look at it, NEET as an examination is failing every single standard that is set in the original conversation that we had at the Supreme Court, where we said we want to set minimum standards so that we can have the best quality of doctors. But the kind of quality of education is falling because the fee is so expensive that only people who can afford to pay will become doctors, and people who have decent merit also cannot become doctors because they cannot afford to pay. And that is a telltale sign of a failing nation, because we're going to have doctors who paid so much money that ultimately all that they can do is to squeeze all of us so they can earn the money and pay back for the crores of rupees of fees that they paid up. I just hope our nation's conscience is aroused and we actually start talking about this a lot more, because this is not the way a nation progresses. This is not the way humanity deals with it. This is not the way a fraud on the nation is committed in open forums, where everything is known, what you filled in and what you have by the time you actually got an admission, everything is known, but the regulators keep quiet, NNC keeps quiet, colleges keep quiet, students pay the money, and the people who with merit are sitting at home preparing for another round of NEET PG examination. I hope we can talk about it a lot more. I hope that we can raise our voice a lot more so that these issues can be sorted forever. Thank you so much. Namaste.